Thank you. Um, so look, I'm really impressed by the turnout. I'm really happy to see so many people. I'm looking forward to talking to some of you, either during the Q&A session or even after, during the happy hour. Yes, I'm Thibault. I'm Intercom's CISO, and we build Fin, which is an AI agent that we offer to businesses so that they can implement their customer service function. And to my left, we have Todd, head of engineering in Vanta. And your company is all about all about managing security assurance and make sure that we can promote it at scale through all the suite of your systems there. So today we're going to talk about building trustworthy AI tools. And both of us here are coming at it from two different angles. On my side, on the Intercom/Fin side, we are developing and selling Fin, which is going to be relied upon by thousands of customers. So our goal is really to keep customer trust super high. On your side, Todd, you're all about making sure that customer trust can be well maintained, continuously maintained, and well presented, again, through various tools that you're having. I hope this microphone is going to work the entire session. Where was I? Yes, talking about trust and security assurance. So nowadays, trust and security assurance, it's mainly framework driven. What you do as a company is that you target a framework like SOC 2, you go through a readiness phase, go through an audit, comply with the standard, and then receive a report. You can put your logo on your marketing site, and that's it. That's good, that works well enough, but my take is that with AI, things are changing. I don't think this is enough anymore. The systems that we're talking about learn, evolve, integrate at a much higher pace than other systems due to AI. And it makes it super hard to monitor trust and to surface it in a way that makes sense. So I guess my first question to you, Todd, is how do you see AI? How do you see it as it has impacted security assurance in your world? So you've been knee deep in this area for quite a while now, and I'm just curious about your take.
Yeah, appreciate that. So for those who don't know me, like Thibault said, I'm the head of engineering in EMEA at Vanta. I've been here for about 2 years. I have been in London for the last 6 months and been working in this space for a good while. And we've been building AI products and AI tools really since kind of the advent of ChatGPT and the explosion that we've seen. And in conversations with customers and internally, the thing that comes up is really how do we maintain trust in these products as we're developing and as the rate of change is just accelerating. What do we think about integrating AI within our platforms, within our products, and how do we think about security and compliance in those conditions? The truth is the old ways of doing things, the traditional software engineering and product delivery and security and compliance motions, they yield traditional results. And so we're really looking for how do we manage these systems in an ever-changing landscape, and we need to be able to work with these models, with these systems that are non-deterministic, right? We need to be able to understand at scale systems that we can't easily predict, test, and monitor, and we still need to be able to trust them. So a lot of the work that we do is in talking to customers about how they see AI fitting into their businesses and how we can accelerate their business growth with AI. And internally, we talk about what do we need to do to bring those platforms into our systems, bring the agents into our systems in safe, reliable ways, and ensure that we have good continuous monitoring. The way that Vanta is really positioned is about helping customers establish and prove trust with their businesses that they're working with. We primarily work with B2B, but we also work with B2C customers, government agencies, really a lot of sectors. So trust is the main currency that we trade in. And so with the advent of AI and really the boom we're seeing, there's a lot of change there. It's a very rapid changing landscape, and it's been really interesting to be a part of since I joined Vanta. To tie it back to the original question, I think a thing that we think a lot about is that compliance is no longer just about checking the box. I mean, I think that's the table stakes outcome that you want. SOC 2, for example, is a popular framework in the US, and you need that to be able to sell to other businesses. ISO 27001, like this is kind of a table stakes requirement, but really continuous monitoring and having insight into ways that AI might be able to accelerate your security posture, accelerate your business. Those are things that customers want as well. And so with the rate of change in the AI landscape, doing an audit once a year, that's too slow. We really need systems that are keeping abreast of changes that are happening day to day, week to week. And so we've started to develop tools that give customers that level of visibility.
Yep, thanks for that. I mostly agree with everything that you said, and I'm going to add a few things here. From a pure security and compliance point of view, and within Intercom, the things that we've seen that AI has caused is that we used to have like those traditional security controls. So access controls, like security reviews, user reviews, user access reviews, code reviews, and that's all in well. But with AI, we're seeing a lot more new threats that need to be mitigated with additional controls. So you may be familiar with a lot of those new threats. You know, I'm talking about the OWASP top 10 LLM/Gen AI apps threats. There's like maybe 10 of them, and one of them is more relevant than the others for Fin right now, is what we call excessive agency. So just for context, we've invested in AI about like three and a half years ago, I think, whenever like OpenAI released their API access. And at first, Fin used to be a pure AI chatbot, but over the past year, it has become like an AI agent, which means that right now it's almost living its own life, and we need to be careful because an AI agent can start making decisions based on inputs, decisions that may or may not be predictable. So AI brings in a lot more new security threats, and we need somehow to mitigate them. That's the first point. Another thing that we've seen as a change has been the attitude of prospective customers. Up until recently, customers interested in buying Fin have been asking us questions about, is Intercom as an entity secure? Is Fin as a product secure? And we could answer those questions easily. But what has started happening recently enough is that the first question that customers are asking is Fin going to hurt or harm my own users? So we've been moving from security-related questions to more trust and safety-related questions. So that's the second thing, really. And the third thing that, I think my microphone is dying, maybe it's me. The third thing that we've also started experiencing is basically another form of security due diligence. So our customers come to us, they look at our security posture from an entity point of view, from Intercom's point of view. They look at how secure the product is by looking at our pen tests. But they are a lot more interested in details, or what we call details, but in their eyes are no details. So for instance, they are interested in the sub-processors that we leverage to sub-process their data. So in our case, OpenAI, Anthropic, GCP, and they're asking questions about them. So the third realization is that what we call fourth-party risk is now a thing for our prospective customers. So that's more or less like, my takeaway here, like across like 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's something we notice too, and obviously working in the compliance and security space, fourth party risk and really nth party risk management, knowing how secure your supply chain is down to even open source software that you're using, vendors that you work with. There's a lot at stake. You've all seen and heard about, breaches, attacks on businesses, attacks on large organizations. And trust is one of those things that is hard to earn and really quickly lost when these kinds of things are mishandled. And that extends to the vendors and the relationships that you have with businesses that you're partnered with. So a lot of what we think about internally is how is data that we're giving to vendors going to be used, especially when you talk about AI, like what every product is building something with AI, right? What is going to be, what is that product going to be doing with that data that I'm giving to it? What are the agreements that I might need to make as a business when I'm partnering with another vendor to handle my data, to handle my customers' data? Those are conversations that are happening all the time and are going to be informed by the public documentation. So Vanta offers trust centers that allow you to publish your latest SOC 2 audits, your ISO certifications, use your security posture as a bit of a marketing tool. But you're also going to be getting questionnaires from vendors and answering those questions for yourself. And so to your point, Thibault, a lot of customers are becoming more scrutinizing in this landscape. And so you need to be able to tell a good story about data, about the tools you use, about how those tools are using your data. And in some cases, you need to have strict controls in place and have continuous monitoring on those controls so that if something happens, an engineer makes a mistake or somebody changes a configuration in one of those systems, you can detect that quickly and correct it and harden your systems. An example here that we talk about in some of our AI tooling for the product that we build is really about giving customers control over how their data is passed to these systems. So we've kind of oscillated on how in the loop we want humans to be, and kind of landed that we want AI tooling to really do a lot for us, and we've moved toward this kind of agentic model in the platform, but we still want customers to have control over the decisions that are being made ultimately, because it's their business, it's their responsibility to ensure that good decisions are being made. So AI is in there to suggest it for you and to help you find areas that you may not be thinking about, but it's up to you as the user to decide this is the right decision for me, or this is something that I want to make an adjustment to, or this is actually wrong, right? Like you have this new kind of class of risk of like AI hallucination, and that's just part and parcel for today's world now. You have to build controls in for that kind of thing as well. And so we try to think about that in the product experience we're giving to our customers, letting them choose when they're accepting AI responses for vendor questionnaires, for example, when they're leveraging AI output, or even letting them turn off AI features completely if that's something that they have sensitivity around. And then we try to give them control over which vendors we're working with. So we partner with OpenAI, with Anthropic, with other model providers. And I think the best AI products are ones that let you choose how and when AI is using your data, even down to the model level. I think about a lot of the cursor development that I do in my free time, and I like that I can just choose which model I want to use when I'm using it, and tune that to my own interests and the output that I want to see.
So if I try to summarize a little bit what you just told us here is that you're trying to build trust within your product by giving options to your customers.
That's right.
Yeah. And I have a question for you actually on this. So you know the way, as you said, you started building Vanta and building some features that rely on LLMs. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
My question is, how did you go about actually building this feature? How did you go about, picking the technology, picking the vendor that you may use? What were your criteria?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when it comes to vendor choice, ultimately we're thinking about we buy and sell trust, right? That's the kind of business that we operate in. We want to help our customers earn and prove trust. And so we really need to trust the products that we're using too, the vendors that we're using for everything, but for LLMs in particular, we do a lot of due diligence internally to understand, is the quality of the output of this system going to be up to our standard? We think a lot about product quality, and that extends to content that is generated by these systems. And so for every evaluation, it starts with kind of exploratory phases. We have an idea for a problem space where AI might make sense. And there are things that you would think about, reading and parsing content from documents, whether it's like security questionnaires or data processing agreements or data protection impact assessments, these kinds of document-based evidence that we get often as security and compliance focused businesses. And as well as content generation, right? Like maybe we're filling in details for forms, and we want to leverage the corpus of information that we have in our customers' Vanta instances to answer questions about, maybe they want to ask questions about their compliance posture, their security posture, and we want to be able to have the agent answer questions for them. So we do a lot of internal exploration to understand what are the tools that are best suited for those purposes. And then we have a lot of validation that we're doing internally first before we expose to customers. And we try to drink our own champagne. So use the product ourselves, really see how it feels, understand if this is something we can use for our own internal processes. And this is something that is going to solve the problem that we have. Because if it solves our problem and if it's up to our standard, then at least we know it's going to be useful for the subset of customers that are like us, or even some larger, some smaller. And so that's the first step, is the internal exploration, and that is really broad. We try to not constrain ourselves with the types of systems models that we're thinking about. We really keep it open, but then inevitably quality starts to filter out some of those systems, and then we start to get really more serious about what are the ones that we want to incorporate. Obviously, the big players out there in terms of LLM, OpenAI, Anthropic, they had already built so much of what we would need that the quality conversation was pretty fast, and it turned into, how do we make sure that this product that we're going to build with these models is going to serve the need for our customers in a secure way, and that we can deliver it quickly. So we started to first, when we were onboarding those vendors, ensure that they're not going to train on our customers' data, and that's something that we stipulated for ourselves, but also heard from our customers. We don't want to be passing that data to customers, to the LLM providers rather, to train the models, but then give the customers the ability to tune the model output themselves and give us feedback as well. So we do a lot of prompt tuning internally, but in the product itself, we want to give customers a degree of control and feedback to say, for example, for a vendor questionnaire, this was a good answer to this question, or this is not quite right, here's why, let me make edits. So it's about, I think, keeping a human in the loop always, and giving them the level of control that they want to control what is being produced by one of these generative models.
Fair enough. One thing that you haven't mentioned is transparency. Like, do you care about transparency?
Yes.
When you talk to OpenAI, for instance, or Anthropic, or even like, when you look at us, Fin, as an AI agent, is this something that you really care about? And to what extent, I guess?
Yeah, I think I believe in transparency with context. Full transparency can yield confusion or just make kind of muddle the issue. What I want to know, especially when I'm thinking about LLMs and the content that they're generating, is a little bit behind the scenes of how decisions are being made, how output is being generated, so I can see the thought process, and then I can decide if it makes sense for my use case, or I can tune my prompt if I need to, or otherwise change models. And I think for our product, it's the same way. We want to be transparent with our customers when we're using AI, how it's being used, what kind of controls customers have in place, and give them, again, control to even opt out if they want to, or choose a different model for themselves. I've encountered at least a few times working with businesses in Europe where they prefer one LLM provider to another, and for whatever reason, that's the preference they hold. So we want to give them the option to choose what makes sense for their business, and so giving them transparency about who we partner with, how their data is used, but with the context of, we really believe in AI as an accelerant for security, for compliance, for this whole swath of product development in the industry. So we want them to use those features, we want them to use those products within the constraints of their business and the ways that they want to use them. So I think about transparency with the right context.
Yeah, I like that. I like this notion of with the right context, because on our side, we do get a lot of questions around, Fin, how we deployed Fin, how it's architected. As I said, what sub-processors are being used in the backend. Sometimes we even get questions, what model from this sub-processor are you using? And to us, it's a little bit too much. It's too much into the weeds, and it's not a question that we can accurately answer, mostly because we are architected in a way that we are able to move from one service provider to another, from OpenAI to Anthropic to GCP, if we want and if we need. For instance, if there's an availability or reliability issue that we need to deal with, we just move from one to another. So, like, when we ask these type of questions, we're trying to just gently push back and say, look, we have nothing to hide, nothing to be concerned about on our side. But like these type of questions, it's too much into the weeds. I think personally, what customers should really care about is a predictable behavior, as opposed to understanding all the details about how Fin is actually designed and implemented. That's how I view this, I guess.
I mean, I want to hear from you, Thibault. You're building the AI agent itself. How do you incorporate some of that transparency, some of those model decisions? How have y'all built Fin the way that you have?
Yeah, it's a big loaded question, I guess. So how to answer this? First, we want to be transparent, as I said, with our customers. Not too transparent, but transparent enough so that they can understand how to use Fin safely. That means that my mental model is that we have a shared security responsibility model, whereby Intercom and Fin are in charge of security, reliability, and what I call containment in the agent's actions. That means that we make sure that the AI agent is going to behave safely within its own scope. And from a customer's point of view, we want them to focus on the intent that the agent should have, but also the boundaries that it should operate within. So two two sets of responsibilities, one for us, one for the customer. And to enable the customer to actually trust Fin, us, Intercom, we provide them with a set of controls, but not typical security controls that we had before, not like access control, user access reviews, etc., etc. There are higher level controls that enables them to gain more confidence as to their instance of Fin. So I'm just going to take two examples. Like the first one is what I would call procedural safety nets or safety layer. Basically, what we give customers is the ability to add a little bit of determinism in the way they define their agents. So concretely, if you create an AI agent, within Fin, and create connection to your internal systems, what you can do right now is use natural language to describe what the agent should be doing. The problem is that it's always a little bit fuzzy, and if you give this to the agent, it may go slightly off track and start doing things that may be harmful. So like it's the excessive agency that I was telling you about earlier. So we're adding this layer to enable customers to really ring fence, create this scope, those boundaries. And this layer is all about giving like the usual if then else predicates to customers so that they can really tailor the response of the agent based on deterministic processes. So yeah, concretely, you can essentially read code on top of your natural language paragraph to tell the agent how to behave. So that's one of the things. The other control that we give customers so that they can trust that their agent is operating safely, but that they can also trust that we, on our side, are doing what we're supposed to be doing to power Fin, is that we offer them the ability to run simulations. So as a customer, you instantiate a Fin.ai as an agent. You can test like the response that this agent may generate based on a set of predefined inputs. And this way that enables you to validate that your agent is working according to your own requirements before releasing it to prod. But it also helps you to identify whether or not anything weird is potentially happening on our side, because you could be running these tests regularly on a daily basis. And if you change nothing on your side as a customer, and if your test fails for any reason at some stage, then you may be able to conclude that something happened on the Intercom side. And that's our way of opening up a bit of a window to how Fin works for our customers, so that we don't have to be like fully transparent, giving them way too much information that they won't be able to process. Yet we give them the tools to be able to, observe and test this trust that we're talking about.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm curious because obviously we're a security and compliance company. You're a CISO. We're developing products. I manage our engineering organization at Vanta, and one of the things that we've talked about in the past is like, how do we build securely, especially in an AI landscape? And something I'm curious about from you, Thibault, is how your team is partnering with the engineering org, with the product development organization in really accelerating development with these AI tools, with AI products, but moving forward in a secure, compliant, hardened fashion.
That's a great question. So when I joined Intercom, that was like 10 years ago, there was no security person or even program. But I joined an engineering group that was already like security minded. So at the time, it was pretty easy for me to set up the security practice or function. So we reported within engineering to the CTO, and fast forward 10 years, still the same. we still report directly to the CTO. In fact, my group is an engineering group, and we work alongside other engineering groups. We leverage the same tools, the same processes, we plan the same way. In fact, we have people moving around from our group to other groups and vice versa, which means that we've developed empathy for the role of product engineer. So that's one thing. The second thing is, from the very start, Intercom has always been about shipping often and at a high pace. So we used to say, and we still say it, that shipping is our heartbeat, which means that when we set up our security program, we built everything around this concept. That translates into us being like enablers, us building guardrails as opposed to building, being gates, basically. So very recently, or at least for the past year, we've all adopted AI coding tools, okay? GitHub Copilot, Cursor, but also like Augment, and of course like Cloud Code. We in security have been early adopters with this technology, and in fact we're working on tools that helps the rest of engineering developing even more secure code. So like we work very well. I'm not saying that it's always perfect, that we get our way all the time, but we're pretty tuned in as to the level of friction that we may create whenever we work with the rest of engineering. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to steal that model for the team at Vanta. If you haven't read the blog post about shipping as our heartbeat from Intercom, I still remember the first time I read that, and I think of that phrase often. And a lot of what you said resonates with how we work internally. Obviously, we're a security company. We have this compliance as kind of baseline, and we think about that. Even when I was getting dressed this morning, I put on my SOC 1 and SOC 2 socks. It's part of our culture, but I think it's also something that we're thoughtful about in engineering. We want to build this for our, we're always putting our customers first, trying to achieve that outcome as quickly as possible, but security is the outcome, and compliance and risk management is the outcome that we're trying to deliver for our customers. So we need to be thoughtful about that in building that product as well. And that takes a strong partnership with our security engineering organization, and it takes a culture that reinforces these concepts that, these are real problems that can have outsized negative effects on society if things go wrong. And so we need to be thoughtful about mitigating risk at the product level, mitigating risk when we're implementing LLMs and AI in our systems. We're starting to do things like AI-powered internal red teaming, basically, where we're really hardening our own systems from vulnerabilities or from potential threats that AI-powered systems are finding. And it's been really cool to see the speed and pace of evolution in the space. And thinking about that, I think it's just the best way to build trust with our customers and with these products. It's been really, really great to see.
Yeah, it's basically dog fooding against, like the AI. Like we leverage AI within the product, but also internally. Actually, interestingly, I have maybe two good enough example about us leveraging AI internally. So one of them is, I don't know, maybe it's the same in Vanta. We've adopted AI to the extent that non-technical people can now push code to production.
Nice.
Our designers, for instance, have been leveraging Cloud Code and also Cursor to basically bypass the need for engineers to push their own changes to production, which I think is pretty good. EMs have started developing code, pushing to production. I've even pushed myself from code to production recently. Maybe not the best thing I should be doing. So that's a good thing. Another thing that is potentially more relevant to what we're talking about here is that internally we're running experiments. One experiment touches on one key security control that you have to have for SOC 2, HIPAA, ISO, and it's internal change management. And usually the way you implement this is by implementing like PR reviews. So create a pull request, you get somebody else from your team or another team to review it. So two humans are involved, one to push the code, another one to review the code. What we're doing right now, we're looking at it from the point of view of, what if we could replace one of those two humans? So like the easy option could be like, okay, we're just gonna let AI create code, push it, and a human will review this code. But actually, it's not what we're looking at. We're looking at replacing the human in the review of the code changes. So that's an experiment. It might be a little bit scary and potentially controversial. We're looking as to whether this is viable. So we're looking at previous PRs, looking at how humans fared as a role of the code reviewers.
Yeah.
And we're looking at whether the AI would do a better job. And we're hoping to build some knowledge around this and decide whether or not it's viable. And then we're going to have a difficult conversation with our auditors maybe to see whether or not they accept this. But this is changing for us also. AI is changing things on how we demonstrate compliance even internally. So yeah. I think we're coming to the end. We're not quite there yet. One last question for you, maybe, like, how do you see the future of security assurance / customer trust?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, we've talked about compliance, and that's kind of, I think, table stakes, because the rate of change is so fast that the frameworks that are kind of the mainstays, like ISO 27001, SOC 2, they're not evolving the same way at the same rate that the AI landscape is. So it's really important that continuous assurance is baked into these systems and tools. That's why Vanta exists, because we saw this gap between getting compliant, yes, but then really staying compliant and maintaining an awareness of where new risks may be emerging. And we offer all these frameworks, and that's the bread and butter of our business, but we've really gone beyond that to continuous governance, risk management, and really trust management, and starting to get into data security and privacy as well. That's the area that my team specializes in. And I think that in all of those, the change that AI brings is underpinning the need for that space and the need for awareness and understanding of, again, how things might go wrong and how we will address or mitigate those risks, but also like how things can go right. What are some things that this unlocks for us? What is the way that this might accelerate our business that wasn't possible 3 years ago, that wasn't possible 10 years ago? So we're moving a lot into, again, continuous assurance powered by AI, and allowing those tools to inform really the direction that we want to go with our customers. I had one last thought on...
Actually, maybe before your last thought.
Yeah.
I think we're more or less doing the same thing at Intercom. So, like you, I think we've complied with ISO 42001, the new ISO AI framework.
Yes.
And it's good. It's a good framework for AI governance. It proves that you have your house in order with regards to AI. But I still find it like super high level and super broad also. And I wonder to what extent it's super useful when I think about it. So one thing that we've started looking at is another standard that came around like 2 or 3 months ago. It's called AI UC-1. They call it the SOC 2 for AI agent. For us, it's great because it's a more relevant standard, something that applies directly to our product. So none of those ISO standards or SOC 2 applies to a particular product.
Right.
Here, this one like applies to our product, but also looks after other aspects such as security, privacy, reliability. So we're hoping that it's an answer to this question. What's next? What's the future for demonstrating and maintaining customer trust?
Yeah.
We're looking at this at the moment. That might be the answer, might not be the answer. We'll see. But in any case, we're listening. We're listening to them. We're listening to our customers also.
Yeah.
Some of our customers have come forward over the past 2 months saying that, look, we need more from you to be able to trust you. We need more details, but we need to understand the changes that you're making within your product. And they were not like making this up. They were not like trying to come up with requirements. These were requirements that the FCA, which is the regulatory body for financial services, especially here in the UK, is trying to define and possibly mandate for any entity that depends on them. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't have the answer. We are investigating potential answers.
Yeah.
We're also listening to our customers to see what they think that they need, and we're progressing accordingly.
That makes sense. I think that's the key. Putting your customers first, listening to what they say. The regulation is going to always be lagging, and sure, they'll catch up. The EU AI Act, the ISO 42001. These are frameworks that are helpful, but to your point, they don't capture the exact needs of your business. And I think for us, at least, the future is custom control frameworks, right? You define what makes sense for your business, and you leverage that and have the continuous assurance and automation on top of those controls.
I like this concept. Even without AI, I would love right now to be able to build my own framework of security controls, like the typical normal security controls, but also the AppSec controls that we've built within the app that don't tie to any specific framework.
I'll give you a demo after the chat.
Perfect.
Thibault.
Excellent. Let's do this. Okay, I think we're more or less at the end. Thank you very much. We over. That's it.
Let's connect to questions now.
Do you think there's a future where 90% to 99% of business work is done through AI agents? Do you think there's a business, because Elon Musk recently tweeted that AI will take all of our jobs and we all will be living a perfect life? But I don't really believe in it. But do you guys think that there's a foreseeable future? And how far is it when AI agents are handling all the business decisions and we don't have to work?
Maybe I'm going to start, but I'm sure you're going to have a better answer. What Elon said there, as in like that everything is going to be replaced by AI and we're going to live happily ever after. I think both of these things are wrong. I doubt, work is going to disappear, mostly because humans are driven by competition. You always want to be better than somebody else. You want to create, you want to stand out. And also a world with no work at all. I don't think everybody would be happy with this in the first place. I don't think it would work. What would we do?
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a lot of fear around, will AI come for my job, or will AI make something I do obsolete? And I think there is possibility for that in some industries or some specific fields. But I think really what I've seen it do, and what I think it will continue to do, is create more capacity in the workforce, bring more capability to achieve more and better outcomes. And I think this is true for a lot of major technology shifts. I mean, thinking back to, let's say, the creation of roads, right? And of course, it changed the need for horses and kind of the way that people travel in the automobile. But it didn't mean people stopped traveling. It actually meant they traveled more. and it created more capacity. And then you have, long haul trucking, for example, it didn't eliminate people driving. It actually just created more capacity for shipping and more supply, more demand. And I think on net, that's led to a lot of like better outcomes for society. So I think about AI the same way. It's like we're in the earliest days still of a major technology shift, and we're trying to understand and throw a lot of things at the wall and see what sticks. And some of that is scary, and I think that's worth acknowledging. But I think that ultimately the things that do stick are going to be the things that unlock greater capacity for the workforce, greater capacity for businesses, greater capacity for humans in their day-to-day lives. And I think to Thibault's point, like work's never going to go away. I think the type of work that we do might shift and change, and it will be augmented, or some of it could be done by AI agents. But I don't know that I want to live in a world where 100% of work is done by a machine, by an agent. I want to have something that I'm working on and creating for myself too.
And even like in the short, medium term, what's happening, and I'm sure you're seeing it as well in your company, internal functions are not disappearing, and they will not
Yes.
disappear. So for instance, like security,
Right.
marketing, sales will always exist. But the roles that we're hiring for right now will change. Even
Yes.
my role as a security leader changes with AI. I can reason a lot more from a strategic point of view with ChatGPT, for instance. I don't need some resources that I used to need before. Yet, it creates more needs because now we're moving faster. We can think smarter, and we can do things that we didn't have the capacity to do before. So.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We'll go to the other side of the room here. Introduce yourself.
Hi, me?
Yeah.
Hi, Alex. Good to meet you. You mentioned around like designers leveraging Claude to push to production. I'm just wondering if also in Vanta you guys are doing that. It's like, what is it actually that they're pushing, right? And more interestingly to me is like, what step did you take as a business to get there to do so reliably?
So maybe
Yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah.
I think we do have some instances of designers pushing code. I'm not sure on that question, and that's something very interesting. What I've seen more is designers using and teams using AI tools for rapid prototyping, validation with customers without having to build as much. So like take Lovable, that's an excellent product. If you haven't used it, go check it out. You can tell it, like, I want to have an experience that approximates this, and it can deliver something that is a clickable, usable experience. And you can build a whole app on top of this platform without ever writing a line of code. And that can get you learning from a customer faster than the timeline that it might take to deliver a fully fledged experience. So I've used those tools myself. I've seen our design team using those tools, our engineering team. What I've seen the most of in terms of code output is my product manager is actually writing code. He has a coding background, has been a product manager for years and years. He's writing more code. I've written more code as an engineering leader probably in the last 6 months than I did in the last 6 years of my career. And what I'm seeing is that the roles are blending a little more. So product engineers are thinking more about product questions. They're thinking more about design. Designers are thinking more about engineering questions and problems, and having a little bit more empathy for each other's roles, while still doing the thing that they were, primarily hired to do.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying that designers do not need engineers to partner with to push code. What I'm saying is that, about 6 months ago, the way it happened was that I think one designer started looking at the tools that engineers were leveraging and identified some changes that they've wanted to push for a very long time, but that was never prioritized by engineering because it was, low priority. And they just tried it. potentially, I'd say, in partnership with engineering, just to see if it worked. And they realized that, pushing a change like this to production was actually easy and also safe. So one thing that I would say is that they're not necessarily pushing to our monolith, our backend code, Rails code. They are pushing to our front end, Ember.js, which is a little bit more safe in the sense that it's going to be harder to create cross-workspace data leaks, for instance. So that being said, it started like this, and our builder tools team, whose mission is really to help assist engineering in moving really fast by providing the right tools, made a conscious decision to invest their time to enable their peers on the design org to be able to develop code by themselves. So it's been a concerted effort, I guess.
Thank you.
This one's for you, Tom.
Yeah.
I know you sort of touched in on one of the things Vanta delivers is an increased level of trust. My question is, how do you guys go about measuring or quantifying that trust that you deliver to some of your prospects or clients?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think vibes are always going to be first, right? Like we're always going to look at qualitative feedback and qualitative input and try to build a brand reputation that backs that. But we also want to understand how much is a product like ours really a business unlock. And so we have tooling in the product itself. So Trust Center is one of the things that we offer that is what I described as kind of a way for businesses to market their security posture and show the compliance frameworks that they have been certified against or the results of their most recent audit, those kinds of things. And we actually track revenue influenced against trust centers to understand what is the volume of business that we're helping these businesses bring in through this channel. It's not a apples to apples kind of metric for trust, and I think trust is not something you can easily quantify. But in the way that trust influences a business and the results, I think it is revenue influence. And that's the way that we think about it internally and the way that we think about it for our customers. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah.
Cool.
I agree with you. It's hard to measure it. I'm curious. Thanks.
Yeah. Hello, Abdul. Thank you today. My question is more about sort of like operational resilience. With AI sort of taking more of a role when it comes to like incident response or like documentation from client's point of view, and for yourself when it comes to sort of Intercom, custom operations and sort of custom support. With AI sort of taking more of the close, how do we sort of envision and ensure that the availability and sort of incident response and sort of playbooks and sort of the people element is still relevant, is still sort of kept up to date, especially like maybe as AI sort of taking more of a role and sort of maybe help from a policy point of view, maybe people may not need to, for example, read policies or sort of understand procedures or playbooks. How do we ensure that people still stay up to date with information about procedures and playbooks and the clients community to ensure that we're able to sort of continue as a business, especially when you need to be where your clients may still rely on you or clients may still need to be able to sort of provide custom operations, be able to view policies. But that's the overall question.
Maybe I can try to answer this one because I think there's a lot to say. We happen to be a customer of Vanta. We've implemented the Trust Center there. Very good products. What I really liked when I saw it was that you have a chatbot there, and you can interrogate those security assurance documents like the SOC 2, all the reports, all the certs, but also the set of policies that a customer may be able to surface through the Trust Center. So in this case, AI enables you as a prospective customer to interrogate those documents and to go straight to the point of what interests you. You can ask questions and get the right answers. Whereas like before, you would receive all those documentations. And in fairness, I don't believe that anybody is reading 165 pages of a SOC 2 report, right? What I used to do is open a report, go to the end, scan to see if there's any exception, and if there's none, that's fine. So my take here is that AI is really helping businesses staying on top of understanding the security posture of a vendor that they are considering, for instance. It's helping. I don't think it's creating any risk in this area. Maybe we can chat about this, later. But off the top of my head, it's really helping us moving faster and being more accurate in terms of understanding the security posture.
Yeah. I think on the internal side, policy acknowledgements are still a thing that you have to do as a human, right? You can't defer that to an AI agent to acknowledge the policies for you. But I think that we're trying to develop policies that are more human readable and more friendly so that it is less about the legalese. Sure, we have that, but we want people to really understand from what does this mean to me as an employee of this business? What am I saying I accept and what am I saying yes to? And that includes AI use policies, right? How do we think about, as employees of a business, how we're using AI tools and what we're allowed to do with them, what we're not allowed to do with them, how we explore them. And that's something that's always evolving, right? Because again, the landscape is changing so fast that you really have to have a really sharp legal team and a really sharp internal security team that is staying on top of those things and pushing that out to the employees. I think policy acknowledgement is the first step, though. It's really making it part of the culture is how the policies become really enacted and ingrained. And that comes from leaders creating the right culture and sharing how they're using AI in their work and the things that they're doing. An example we have in our all hands, which we do monthly, our CISO talks about 6 minutes of security and talks about what are things happening in the AI landscape, what are things happening in the security landscape that might be affecting our business, that might be affecting our customers' businesses. And so it's reinforcing the things that you maybe acknowledge once a year in the policy form, but really need to be continuous and maintained part of your culture.
Okay, we'll take one more question, but don't worry because Thibault are going to be hanging around for a little bit afterwards. So, yeah, you don't have to all the time. Yeah.
I guess thanks for the talk. My question is kind of practical. Whenever you integrate with our AI products in the companies, that's right. So, like common frameworks like zero data retention and again, like agreements with the company not burning with your data.
Yeah.
Are there any other common practices? And then this second part of the question, how you can even verify that that's not still storing your data, not burning your data?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, it's trust, right? And that's what we're talking about. It is on that businesses, it is in their best interest to do what they say they will do in the terms and conditions of the contract, the agreement that we've come to when we reach a partnership. And if they don't, the risk is, the tech world is small, right? We talk to each other. Thibault and I worked together. We're customers of each other's products. If I hear, hey, this vendor's not really doing what they said they would do, I'm gonna go tell Thibault, right? I'm gonna say, you should be careful, right? And so I think in terms of contractual enforcement, I think it is ultimately trust. But the other thing is there are regulations in place for, let's say a data breach happens, right? Worst case, they're required to notify you about that kind of thing. And the companies that do this well do that with transparency, with context, and share, here's what went wrong, here's why it happened, here's what we did to mitigate the issue, and here's what we're going to do to prevent this type of thing from happening in the future. And you might lose trust in that moment, but over the long term, that is how trust is built and maintained, is through accountability and transparency. So I think, yeah, right, writing the stipulations that you want to in your master service agreements and the contracts you're signing, but ultimately seeing that followed through those types of conversations, and that need for trust never really goes away. The other thing I would say is you can look at compliance, right? You can look at security posture that a business has, especially if you're using our product like Trust Center. You can go look and see, okay, this is what they're actually doing. These are the controls that are live in their business today, the policies that they have that all of their employees are accepting. And so there's a level that comes from that doesn't just come from the conversation or the relationship. It comes from really seeing what kind of continuous monitoring they have in place and what type of practices they have.
Yeah, and I don't think I have much to add to this, but it makes me think of the whole process of security due diligence. When you look at the vendor, it's always a bit of a gamble. There's only so much you can do to learn what this vendor is doing internally. They're not going to open up entirely for you to look. Okay, so you need to trust them at some point. What you can also do is just concentrate on what you can control and build security controls on your side to mitigate any risk that you see when onboarding this vendor. In your case with AI, like your question is really around mishandling of data. Like, are they really discarding the data, or are they storing it? Are they using it to tune or fine-tune their models? We cannot really check for this, so we need to trust them. The bigger those vendors are, the most well-known they are, the less the probability, or like the smaller the probability will be that they're going to try to, breach their contract effectively. So, yeah.
Great. Okay, so we'll wrap it up there. As I said, if you have a question, you can ask in the happy hour. But yeah, just would love to give a very warm round of applause and thank you to everybody.
Thank you.